savoir pour qui j'écris.
It's very difficult to know for whom I write.
Le premier mouvement.
I believe one must write primarily for oneself at first.
C'est pour soi qu'on écrit.
The writer has something to say and wants to express it in the best possible manner, but also wants to communicate.
Mais seulement, on ne sait pas vraiment à qui.
Except that one doesn't know with whom.
C'est-à-dire un lecteur.
One imagines the ideal reader, that is, a reader able to grasp everything, who'd be a brother.
La chose écrite, on la lance comme ça.
When it's written, one just throws it out like a bottle at sea with a message inside and hopes somebody will find it, read it, and enjoy it. The throw of the dice.
Quand j'étais très, très jeune, très petite, c'est surtout les livres d'enfance, les contes, les contes d'André.
When I was very, very young, it was mostly children's books. Andersen's tales and Countess deSégur's books. I think all that children's literature, so rich in symbol and myth, made such a deep impression on me that I became very strongly committed to that mysterious world that permeates children's tales. I believe that childhood and adolescence leave the deepest mark on a person. In my case, these years, the most important in my life, were spent in Quebec. And, for better or for worse, I'm tied to that past.
Même si j'exprime le présent,
and even though I write of the present, the past is still there, woven through me.
je suis faite avec, c'est ma vie.
It's my life, and I don't want to give it up.
Enlever la part la plus profonde.
That would be to deny the part of me most profound, most intense.
Vie de château. C'est un château d'ancêtre, sans table, ni feu, ni poussière, ni tapis. L'enchantement pervers de ces lieux est tout dans ces miroirs polis. La seule occupation possible ici consiste à se mirer, jour et nuit. Jette ton image aux fontaines dures, ta plus dure image, sans ombre ni couleur. Vois, ces glaces sont profondes comme des armoires. Toujours quelques morts y habitent sous le tain et couvrent aussitôt ton reflet. Se colle à toi comme une algue, s'ajuste à toi, mince et nue, et simule l'amour en un lent frisson amer. Je crois que les poètes au Québec ont été très, très importants.
I think in Quebec, poets have been important because for a very long time they were the voice of the silent mass. Not merely because this is typically a poet's role, but because it's an affirmation of life in the face of the world, and that's extremely important.
Je crois que c'est toujours dans des moments.
I think in times of crisis, poetry takes on its full significance and expresses best the true nature of a people. I think of France under the occupation, the resistance. At that time, a great number of poems expressed the French soul. It's the same for Quebec.
Un poème écrit, c'est un poème donné.
A poem written is a poem given. In other words, the reader is free to read the poem as he likes. It's a new grid applied to the poem, and sometimes the meanings found were all there. But they must be accurate. A reader notices things I may have missed and makes me aware of them, things there already. Because a poem has many layers, rather like flaky pastry, very light and transparent on top. There are all kinds of implications within a poem. And the reader can carry his own fantasies and sensitivity into his reading, altering the poem. But when the interpretation is false, I don't agree at all. Whether the reader is completely aware of it or not, he has nevertheless created it. Reading is not by itself a creative act. It is a a recreation, a remolding, and it takes a lot of delving to uncover the hidden truths.
Quand j'écris un poème, presque toujours, le poème vient en entier.
When I write a poem, it nearly always comes to me complete. But with a long poem, it's as if I discovered one side at a time, like the crescent moon, not the full moon. It doesn't come all at once. One can't put the picture together unless the missing part is recovered. Still, one is almost always given the complete picture, even though its contours are slightly blurred. Essentially, it's all there from the start.
Dans un poème, il y a quelque chose de fulgurant.
There's something explosive in a poem, something very violent that bursts out suddenly because it's so intense, so short. It's a blazing fire, but very brief. With a novel, the flame must be nursed day after day and rekindled when it has died and is momentarily lost. One must wait patiently until it springs to life again. It's a kind of patient taming of the fire inside us, with all the risks that involves, and with all the beauty, the ecstasy, too.
Vieille image. Tout détruire. Le village et le château. Ce mirage de château à la droite de notre enfance. L'allée de pin se ravine comme un mauvais chemin. Et nous marchons dans cet abîme se creusant. Les pas des morts nous accompagnent doux muets. Nous affichons notre profonde différence en silence. La rage qui oppresse notre poitrine, la corde que nous tenons et la poutre d'ébène que nous cherchons au grenier de la plus douce tourelle. Et vieille image, château, village, croule au soleil, sous le poids léger d'un seul pendu. C'est assez difficile de savoir par quel processus.
It's quite difficult to understand a process when something starts as an intuition, more sensation than idea. For me, at least, poetry isn't an abstraction. It's tangible. It's a living thing. And the desire to express it in words is triggered by a sensation that permeates and enlightens us. Sometimes one can be deeply moved by all sorts of things one sees in real life, in the streets, talking to the people, and in the transition to writing, they can be irretrievably lost. But something lingers, something that urges us, compels us to speak. This, I believe, represents the transition from life to poetry.
C'est-à-dire que si j'essaie de m'analyser,
well, if I analyze myself, I understand why death is an issue that often occurs in my poetry and prose. I can give reasons, but they don't satisfy me. I could say, for example, that my father was seriously ill when I was a child, that he nearly died the year I was born, that my mother was seriously ill, that I lost my small brother when I was young, and that death took a heavy toll of my mother's family. It was a large family of 12 children, only 3 of whom survived. Children that at that time died of diphtheria, whooping cough, tuberculosis, measles, etc. Such events weigh heavily on one early in life. Mind you, my mother had a sense of humor, and she could be joyous. She was not a person to mourn all the time over the sad events she experienced in childhood. I think this left a deep mark on me. That's the sort of thing everybody experiences in life, the loss of one's friends and those dear to us. These events only heightened an anxiety about death already inside me.
Je suis la terre et l'eau. Tu ne me passeras pas à gué, mon ami, mon ami. Je suis le puits et la soif. Tu ne me traverseras pas sans péril, mon ami, mon ami. Midi est fait pour crever sur la mer, soleil étale, paroles fondues. Tu étais si clair, mon ami, mon ami. Tu ne me quitteras pas, essuyant l'ombre sur ta face comme un vent fugace, mon ami, mon ami. Le malheur et l'espérance, sous mon toit, brûlent, durement noués. Apprends ces vieilles noces étranges, mon ami, mon ami. Tu fuis les présages et presses le chiffre pur, amène tes mains ouvertes, mon ami, mon ami. Tu parles à haute et intelligible voix. Je ne sais quel écho sourd traîne derrière toi. Entends mes veines noires qui chantent dans la nuit. Mon ami, mon ami. Je suis sans nom, ni visage certain, lieu d'accueil et chambre d'ombre, piste de songe et lieu d'origine. Mon ami, mon ami. Ah, quelle saison d'âcres feuilles rousses m'a donné Dieu pour t'y coucher. Mon ami, mon ami. Un grand cheval noir court sur les grèves. J'entends son pas sous la terre. Son sabot frappe la source de mon sang à la fine jointure de la mort. Ah, quel automne, qui donc m'a prise parmi des cheminements de fougères souterraines, confondus à l'odeur du bois mouillé. Mon ami, mon ami. Parmi les âges brouillés, naissance et mort, toute mémoire, couleur rompue, reçois le cœur obscur de la terre. Toute la nuit, entre tes mains, livrée et donnée, mon ami, mon ami. Il a suffi d'un seul matin pour que mon visage fleurisse. Reconnais ta propre grande ténèbre visitée. Tout le mystère lié entre tes mains claires, mon amour. Si quelqu'un, un jeune, me demandait, je voudrais écrire...
If a young person came to me and said, I want to write like Hébert, I would advise him strongly against doing so. He doesn't have to write like Hébert, or anybody else for that matter. He must write as himself, discover his own identity first, and express himself without trying to imitate somebody. Let him try out as many paths as necessary. But once he has found his own path, he should stick to it and not imitate anyone.
Si j'avais à faire un cours...
If I were to lecture on my writings,
une écriture qui parle de l'envers.
I would say they speak of the reverse side of the world, with its hidden springs. When I write about human beings, I don't portray them only from the outside, through their gestures, their looks, the color of their hair, their eyes, etc. I reach beyond to that aura of mystery that hovers around them and still baffles me, and which I convey intact. This is my greatest ambition, to express this mystery unaltered. Like meeting somebody you speak, he answers. Ideas are exchanged, a conversation begins, but in each of you, a part remains secret. I believe that's one way of seeing literature, as an attempt to make this secret side tangible. Not to explain it, because I couldn't. I want to convey things in their living reality with their mystery.